Thank you, everyone. So my name is Sebastien. I'm a Deputy Director at Jumbo Car Guadeloupe. It's an honor and pleasure to be here with you tonight. And so we are going to talk about dynamic pricing, the car rental industry, with a specific focus on Jumbo Car Guadeloupe. So I'm going to expose to you how we made the transition from a static pricing environment to a dynamic pricing one. So to give you a little bit of context really quickly, Jumbo Car Guadeloupe, it's a car rental company based in Guadeloupe, basically, and owned by GBH. So the brand is expanded into all the French territory, so Martinique, Guadeloupe, French Guiana, and Réunion. As of today, we got a fleet of 1,000 cars in Guadeloupe for Jumbo Car, with 5 locations, 1 airport location, and 4 off airports. This is really important because this is a business heavily driven by leisure demand, so heavily focusing on airport business. So looking at the customer segmentation today, we are talking about 80% leisure, 10% corporate, and 10% working. And another point, and that's critical for us, this is a very competitive environment with a growing demand of an underground market. I mean, as of today, you got the big players here at Europe Car, 6 Jumbo Car, etc. This is 6,000 cars, roughly. But when you look at the local players, the underground market, we're talking about 8,000 cars. And this is something we need to consider because it's really hard for us to compete with players that are not basically in the game out the door on the airport and with really aggressive pricing strategies. So revenue management is helping us to tackle these kind of small competitors. So a brief introduction. After, I will make the presentation in 2 parts. The first one will be more from an history point of view, looking at pricing, dynamic pricing history. And the second part will be more concrete, looking at how we made the transition to a dynamic pricing environment with concrete example of how we are doing tier pricing, how we are measuring the pricing sensitivity of our product, car groups, etc. Feel free to ask any questions. It will be my pleasure to answer it. And after, we'll have some time to have an exchange together. A pizza. Why a pizza? You must be wondering, because when I was working for Hertz, that was a joke between us. You can have a car today at the price of a pizza, 10 euros. In Guadeloupe, you can get as low as 10 euros during low season, but during peak season as well when your market is overflated. And this is something we need to deal with on a daily basis. And that's critical for us to have a smart approach regarding revenue management because when you are optimizing all the booking window of your customer, all the booking you take 1 month, 2 months, 3 months in advance, you can limit the negative impact of this kind of pricing. And that's all the point, to know how to use revenue management to avoid to go at the price of a pizza today. Short history about pricing. It's a fascinating subject when you look at the history of this pricing for the past 40 years. In the 70s, we were working basically on the pricing rate matrix environment. So regularly, we were updating our prices once a year, looking at summer and winter season, so that was very simple. In the 80s, American Airlines launched for the first time a revenue management system looking at capacity price competitors, live update of pricing. That was massive investment and massive opportunities. A couple of years ago, hotel and car rental industry took the flight and entered the game, and National Car was the first one to successfully implementing a revenue management system. That was 56 million profit the first year. So again, there is a huge benefit to go to a static pricing environment to a dynamic pricing one, looking at your competition, looking at your capacity and updating regularly your price. So 2 years ago, we started the job with our system to go from a static pricing environment, I mean an environment where we updated price once a week, to an environment where we are pricing every day, changing our prices by car group, by length of keep, being smarter on this. I will be short on this one. So when you look basically at revenue management, you got some key pillars that we all know about, especially the customer segmentation, the demand forecast, and the price setting. Obviously, WeYield help us to improve on that point, to know better our customer segmentation, to be able to do a quick demand forecast. But the main part for us is the fleet management, to be able to anticipate the fleet level we will have from day 1 to day 7 to day 14 to day 30. That was really important, and the specificity we need to bear in mind, especially in the Caribbean, the specificity of our business is that let's say we got a fleet of 1,000. From day 1 to day 7, we'll know the fleet we'll have. We don't have any one-way business. We don't have any huge movement of fleet between the island because this is a limited territory, obviously. So that's really powerful tool for us to use for revenue management. And for us, it's all about getting the right car at the right type of customer, to sell it at the right type of customer, at the right time, and at the right price. Well, so let's go straight into our subject, the transition to a dynamic pricing environment. So our learning and opportunities. The first thing we did was to work with brokers to provide them with live rates, because an issue we had that we were sending rate sheet to the brokers, they were taking 2 days to upload our prices, and you had on our market a discrepancy between your price and the broker price. So there is no price parity, and that's not healthy in that environment. The second thing we did was to start to daily benchmark our competitors using tools like WeYield again to do that, analyzing smartly our customer booking behavior. So the proportion of booking we are taking 1 month in advance, 2 months in advance, 3 months in advance. And the specific thing we did is that for each single peak period, we identify what we call the acceleration point. I mean the time where you're starting to take 80% of your booking. Because when you are looking, for example, at peak period like for us, January, we know that it's in December the 8th that we'll take 80% of our booking. And that's really important for us to know this point. This is where you need to focus. This is where you need to be every day focused on your pricing. And the last thing we did was to track fleet utilization ratio. We had 2 options. We got smaller cars and larger cars. I was talking about the customer profile in the Caribbean, so 80% of leisure business. The market is heavily driven by small car group. This is not where there is the opportunity. This is not a small car group, this is a larger car group. So for smaller car group, we decided to have a regular pricing strategy, so looking at the demand. When there is constraint, we are increasing price. Where we need to push for demand, we are reducing our pricing and be aggressive. But for the larger car group, we decided to look at the utilization of those cars and to define buckets. We have a system where we define prices for each bucket of utilization, and automatically the price are moving up where we are going from bucket 1 to bucket 2. A concrete example, you take the SUV car group, so compact car. We decided that from 0 to 25% utilization ratio of this car group, we define a price. For 25% to 50%, we define another price, and for 50 to 75%, we define a third price. So that's the math. I will illustrate that straight for you. The methodology we put in place to define the tier pricing. So I took a peak period. So let's say January from last year. I took all the reservation I take during this period. I took the average RPD for those, let's say 100 reservations, and I defined some quartile. Quartile 0 is equivalent to the minimum RPD we find for this car group, so let's say 14 euros. Quartile 4 is the maximum RPD I can find for this car group, so 120 euros. Quartile 1 will be the 25% first quartile of the reservation. RPD in average is 36 euros. So giving me an estimated price week, and I use this data to define my tier. So from tier 1, I will use the quartile 1 to define my tier pricing. For tier 2, I will use quartile 2, etc., etc. So we had to know a starting point. That's the starting point, and we are constantly A/B testing what's going on, at how fast I can fulfill my tier 1 with this price, If I'm taking too long to fulfill this tier, maybe reducing the price, obviously looking at the competition, but that's the first starting point we put in place to define the tier pricing. And that's a real powerful tool for two reasons, because obviously you can optimize all the units you have for larger car groups, so generally the most profitable one. But most important thing for us is that we never be cheated of cars. I mean, you know, this common mistake where you forget to upload prices for a specific car group in July, a period you don't look at, and one day you realize that you took too many reservations at a too low price for a specific car group. With this kind of methodology, we can have that, because basically it's looking constantly at utilization, so we can have this kind of mistake. So at the moment, so I told you there is two ways for us looking at smaller car group in terms of dynamic pricing and looking at larger car group in terms of dynamic pricing from a tier pricing perspective. So obviously in the pipeline at the moment, we are looking at automating pricing changing, so looking at scenario. So let's say my competitors are at a X price. I want to be highest of the market or lowest of the market. So all the system that can enable us to constantly follow our competitor automatically. We are creating variable pricing tier. I was talking about it a second ago. Measure price sensitivity through A/B testing. Obviously get a better understanding of our booking pace. So how far in advance my customer are booking. And the last point we are trying to work on is to improve segment and channel mix management. I mean, what's the perfect time for you, for example, to close brokers, to close your classic business, to, for example, get to boost our working business. So this kind of thing we're trying to do at the moment. A last example of things we are trying from a dynamic pricing perspective, it's what I call a early bird booking strategy. It's really important to focus on this healthy demand with healthy RPD, because as I was mentioning during my introduction, in market you can go as low as 10 euros, even lower, for example, in the Spanish market. So you need to be really cautious that you build your profitability, obviously 1-2 months in advance. That's really important part. So there is two scenarios here. The first scenario, classic one, where you are not sure about your fleet level for a peak season, so you decide to have very high pricing strategy just to constrain the demand, to be sure that you will have the fleet for your last minute booking. But the thing with that is that you're slowing down your total reservation trend, and at the end of the booking window, when you are about to enter your peak season, you realize that you have too many cars, you have some delay in terms of booking recovery, so you drop your price drastically. And that's the first mistake. And when I was working for Hertz, especially looking at peak season, that was something we were doing a lot, because we were not sure about the fleet we'll have, because there's so much complexity with the supplier, with all the forecasts around the fleet, that we tend to do that. And each time, but I've been working for 3 years, and each time we did the same mistake, setting high pricing at the beginning, at the end dropping prices. The thing that's really powerful and we are trying to do now is to work on, again, different phase of booking window and be sure that 3 months in advance we have a reasonable pricing. So obviously working on customer willingness to pay, trying different prices to see where we can capture demand. But slowly by step, you start to increase your price, and at the end, you end up, when your booking window is achieved, at a reasonable price and with healthy margin, with healthy RPD, and without dropping too drastically your price. So that's a really powerful technique to drive more demand at a better RPD. The last point of the presentation, after we can have an open discussion about this, it's my opinion regarding car rental business in the Caribbean. I think we are in the best position to test all the pricing innovation at the moment, because this is a market where we can be really powerful on demand forecast. Demand forecast is key for us to anticipate the fleet level and to better optimize our units. And this is a market, as I was saying, where the fleet level is quite stable. The market is heavily oriented by leisure demand, so basically this is where you can capture your demand with more profitable customer. The forecast could be more reliable because we don't have so many no-show. To give you some data, in Guadeloupe, for example, we're talking about 5% no-show and even less for peak period. And working business is really, really small there. So again, you have all the capability to create a good demand forecast. And the last point, it's a strong potential to strengthen your direct channel, especially internet. Because you don't have so many corporate business, you don't have so many working business, all the demand you're taking are coming through internet and brokers. And the thing is, we start to work a lot on SEO optimization. Last year, you had someone here talking about PPC, all the technique you can add to capture demand, and that's something we are trying to really focusing on, compared average RPD on Google's conversion rates, etc., to mix those two notions, not to work on revenue management from one side and on SEO from another side, SEO and SEM, because I think those two notions are directly linked, and we start to work a lot on different technique of retargeting to ask people to push for early birds booking, early promotion, and that's very powerful tool for us to grow our business. And West Indies is one of the best places to do that because obviously heavily driven by leisure segment and with a good capacity of reliable forecast. As a conclusion, before entering to discussion, for us, the critical point of all that, or all the revenue management we put in place, or all the great innovation you can think about, is to track it. And that's the thing, you can for a year start a lot of A/B testing on lowering your price to activate demand, increasing your price to maximize your value, but if you don't track the impact of all this, there is no point, and you are not able to, at the end, to maximize your profitability. So again, as of today, with WeYield solution, it's not publicity, it's true. We are using a lot of capability offered by analytics to support our daily decision, but the best thing of all that is to track the performance and have the best learning of all of that. I want to say thank you to everyone, and if you've got any question, just let's go.
Thank you, Sebastien.